federal government proposes 19.76 trillion naira expenditure for 2023 fiscal year. World Bank leaves out Nigeria as it approves $315 million food security cash to African countries. POS transactions in Nigeria rise to 4.6 trillion naira in 7 months, plus oil edges down as inflation is expected to impact fuel demand. This is Business Express on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority, the NTA, and we're reaching you from Abuja, the nation's capital. I am Leah Baba Tunde, telling you welcome, and it feels good to be back after a well-deserved holiday. We'll begin the business of the day by informing you that the federal government is proposing 19.76 trillion expenditure for 2023 fiscal year. The Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Zainab Ahmed, made this known during an engagement with the House of Representatives Committee on Finance for an overview of the medium-term expenditure framework and fiscal strategy paper 2023 to 2025 submitted to the National Assembly for approval. Lami Ali reports.
The 2023 to 2025 MTEF, like others before it, contains federal government spending plans, and it helps ensure that budgets reflect social and economic priorities. The Finance Minister reeled out projected figures for the period, including budget performance for 2022, which she says is being negatively affected by both local and international events, an example of which is the daily oil production output, down from 1.6 million barrels to 1.3 million barrels per day.
The average crude oil price, we all know, has been growing in the crude oil market, and this is supposed to have been an advantage to us, seeing as our budget was fixed at 73 and we have an average of 103. However, the higher oil price is offset by lower oil production output, which as at April stood at 1.32, and even up to July is still averaging the same. NMPC attributes this fall in production to the high incidence of crude oil theft and pipeline vandalization.
This, she says, is why in 2023, 80 billion naira will be provided for pipeline security and maintenance to enable the country meet up projected daily crude oil production of 1.69 million barrels per day at $70 per barrel on an exchange rate of 435.57 naira to the dollar and a GDP growth rate of 3.75%. Due to the extension of the subsidy regime to June 2023, which will gulp 3.3 trillion naira, the projected deficit is 11.3 trillion naira for 2023.
If we're able to get more revenue from the agencies, the deficit will reduce.
The security of our oil equipment, nature of the terrain where our oil pipelines are, there is the need for them to deploy incentive mechanism.
Most countries, they are looking for ways to stimulate their economy. What do we have in place for ordinary Nigerian?
Data from the Nigeria Interbank Settlement System (NIBSS) between January and July 2022 shows that POS transactions in Nigeria jumped to 4.6 trillion naira in the first 7 months of 2022, a 29.3% increase compared to 3.56 trillion naira recorded in the corresponding period of 2021. Boss Abel spoke to a few vendors right here in Abuja.
We are managing like the way sometimes there will be customers, sometimes customer will come to complain, stuff like that. Especially when customer comes to withdraw and the person is being debited, then the money does not come to you and the person has been debited. So the customer will be like, I need my money, stuff like that. That brings quarrel and so.
Like last time, we were having so challenging with one person, our customer like that. So we withdraw money from his card. The money did not even approved. He showed decline. And now, he now comes to us that they have debited him. We tell him that he should go to his bank and complain. He told us that he got to his bank. They now tell him that the money is with us, that he should come and meet us. Also, please go back and tell them, let them give you error form or statement of account. Following day, the money did not come to us. They now revise the money to the customer's accounts. That is number one challenge that we have with our customers.
I think our government should try and work on the network issue, and also if they can create a system that will help the POS to work well also.
I think currently we the consumers are actually bearing the brunt of this whole thing actually, and it really shouldn't be. As the Apex regulator, they should actually be on the side of the people, that we don't lose our money like that. I actually know, I think there are sanctions out by CBN on that, but the implementation is actually a very...
Now, despite Nigerians' efforts to increase financial inclusion, data shows that the country has only recorded 2.9% improvement in financial inclusion of Nigerians that were previously excluded since 2012. This issue has been in discussions and conversations and will continue to be until the country attains the 80% target it has set. Now, to take us further on this, I have joining me a financial analyst and former banker, Boniface Chizia, and he joins us all the way from Lagos this morning. Mr. Boniface, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm fine. And you?
All right. Okay. Well, bless God.
Yeah, good to see you again. And how is Lagos this morning?
You went on vacation. You did bring us a cake.
Yeah, feels good to be back anyways. The central bank data shows that transactions, electronic transactions and e-payments increased so far in the course of this year. And I'm wondering, what will be the push and pull factors, and is it good for the economy?
Yes, I think that the way forward is to digitalize the economy. There's no two about it. And I think we've been on this race, for quite some time. And it's been a push, like you said in your presentations. The target is really to target 80% inclusion, because really what has happened is that the more of your citizens you have, using banking accounts and so on and so forth, then the effectiveness of monetary policy to that extent is guaranteed. So you deepen your financial sector, and it has also a positive effect. We know the issues of problems you have with carrying cash about, thefts and so on. And so I think that has been a race that has been on. It's a race which central bank has undertaken, and I think the central bank has its jobs, caught out for it. There are also issues, in trying to promote financial inclusion in this country. Like you just heard, you listen to the POS operators, not the least of which is a network. And some of the things they said there, I think that some of us, as friends, we experience at an individual level. So you go to transact, you use your POS in a shop, and they tell you that it's been declined, and then a few minutes later, your account has been debited. And sometimes when you end up paying, going somewhere to draw money and pay and so on and so forth. So I think that it's work in progress, and we hope that we'll get there. But that's the way to go. And most of these things, some countries in the African subcontinent are more advanced than Nigeria. So you're talking of South Africa, you're talking of Kenya, you're talking of Egypt. But I think that we are making progress.
Okay, well, we'll look at this progress now. A lot will be asking the e-Naira. How would you describe the traction it has gained so far?
Well, I think that the Governor of Central Bank is quite upbeat. He's quite excited because, if you look at the history of e-Naira, when we introduced it, we were the first country in Africa, to introduce e-Naira. And that's a kudos, Central Bank. And in fact, second in the world. I think the first country was Bahamas, to introduce it. So even you can see us for once, beating the so-called the industrialized countries of the world, beating them to it. And so the fact that we're very slow in accepting cryptocurrencies and so on and so forth. But I think that the governor is very upbeat. In fact, he's excited about what has happened so far. And one of the expectations of the e-Naira digital currency is that is to assist also in facilitating financial inclusion, because then we expect that what we hear, that next phase, that your wallet, for instance, you don't have to have a bank account, to charge your wallet with your money. So once you have your phone and so on, and that could be done. So I think that it's quite exciting times ahead of us, and we're all looking forward to it.
Okay. So oftentimes I get to receive this text messages that come and they'll tell me, hey, you're qualified for so loans, and you can get that at a very short notice. I mean, fintech companies are taking advantage of the loose gaps that we have in meeting demand for cash and making it easier. Will you describe that as a move towards financial inclusion, deepening it, given the various platforms we've witnessed in recent time, and how can we make it stronger and perhaps protect the consuming public?
Well, I think that one of the downsides of digitalization of the economy is that the fosters always one step up. And when you're talking about this, I smile to myself, because I just read a post where somebody was called and asked, how long have you had your SIM and so on, and you had it for so many years, and have you received this any award from us? You haven't. Okay, so send us this, and the person sent the thing, and there was a run on her account, 510,000 was withdrawn from the account. And she went back to the bank, and the bank said, well, because you listened to them and you did what you did. So I think that people should be very careful, exercise their discernment, and make sure that be very careful about responding, to callers, online, and particularly callers that come asking for details, that should be private. If you're from, for instance, a bank, and you're asking me about my PIN and so on, then you should have it there. Why should you be asking for me to give you that online? So I think that people that have to, some of our citizens are their own worst enemies. So you have to put your thinking cap on in dealing with the public, and someone has to be very careful. So yes, we're making progress, but in everything, there are some smart alerts there that are waiting to take advantage, and your fingers could be burnt. But I think that also that the banks must find a way to begin to be a bit more protective. So they take an aspect of your detail, and they're able to access your account. I think that we have to look for a protective walls to make that, stop them from doing that. It's not right, for the banks to just allow the customers, to bear the brunt. They have a responsibility to make sure that, that the controls, that's tiered layer, in trying to make sure that somebody's going to access. I think that's the challenge going forward.
Yeah, in fact, I had to call out one of my financial institutions yesterday. That's because I woke up to an email that told me that my PIN had been compromised. I should respond so that they could protect my online platform. So I took a screenshot of that and posted it on Twitter, and I asked them, who are those having access to our details, that they get to send emails to me, for instance. They didn't reply me publicly. They sent me a DM and told me, do not respond to such emails, do not click them. So in terms of protecting consumers and financial literacy, are we going to say we're doing well?
No, well, I think, like I said earlier on, is work in progress. I think that also what you must know is that some of the workers, I'm sorry to say this, some of the, not everybody working in the bank is an angel. So some of them go and collaborate. So some of those details you see that they get. Sometimes they tell you details that would make you, if you're not a deep thinker, to say, look, yeah, if this man has all these facts about me, he must be the right person to talk to. So I think that people have to be very, very careful, because people have got their fingers burnt.
Okay, so in terms of regulations, what steps would you propose should be taken by both the financial institutions and the regulators to keep to sort of curtail this situation we found ourselves in?
If we take some steps back, remember that central bank governor was very, very, very cautious about cryptocurrencies. In fact, he came out and told the banks. I'm not sure that's any movement on that. So the banks not to retain accounts of those who deal in cryptocurrencies. And of course he gave his reasons. Those who issue these things, they're not regulated. And then most of the operations, they are hidden operations. And as far as we are concerned, it's a platform that can be used to perpetrate money laundering, to finance terrorism and so on and so forth. So he says so. We're very careful. I thought that the governor of central bank, going ahead to introduce e-naira as he did, so say, look, we are quite aware there's a need, there's a movement in this direction. So we want to show that we are aligned with it, but we want to be very careful with this cryptocurrency. I think that's what he's saying. I think people should be very careful. The central bank made it very clear that they don't understand this thing. They didn't issue it, and so if they didn't issue it, how are they going to regulate it? And so it's if you're going to deal with cryptocurrencies, you have to be very careful. But most Nigerians are deep in it. Very deep in it, and then in fact, it's not the people who tell Nigeria is one of the main countries in the world that our people were very smart. It's just that the system is keeping us down. We're not using our smartness in the wrong direction.
Well, I also heard some people suggest that regulators should be able to, if you complain that you've been scammed or have any of these irregularities, that the receiving account now, that you can go to the bank, complain that they use that BVN number to trace the receiver at the other end. Do you think that's going to help?
Well, I think that most of these guys are pretty smart. Where they want to do these things, as soon as the money goes in, they take it. The money, but of course, if the central bank can trace, if money has been taken from you fraudulently, your account has been debited fraudulently, and they can trace it to any account whatsoever, the central bank should step in and make sure that the situation not only just reversed, the receiving account, if you can identify the person that operates that account, then that person stands indicted, that person stands accused, and has to go and get himself freed. So I think that the central bank has a responsibility, because if we're talking of deepening the financial sector, doing automation, doing digitalization, which is the right way to go. But then, one of the things that will affect it is to make sure that your customers are protected. If they're not protected, if people fear that if I put my money here, it's going to be affected and so on, and they would not. It's one of the things that would drive them away. And one of the things that would affect financial deepening, would affect digitalization, would affect also the growth and development of the Nigerian economy.
Thank you very much, Mr. Boniface Chizia, for always being there. And we also are hoping at this end that, of course, will be done in the very, very short run. Do have a nice day.
Thank you very much. God bless you.
Bless you too. Yes. Next is our Surviving COVID-19 series, as put together by Aisha Musa.
Surviving COVID-19 series is brought to you in partnership with the Central Bank of Nigeria.
My name is Juliet Amobi Chiamaka, CEO Ego Beke Fashion. So I deal on Dubai, Abaya, kimono, kaftan, turban, and also
Okay. So how has your business survived COVID-19?
We are managing it by God's grace and some challenges we do face because I shift abroad. At times, dollar used to go up and come down, so the thing is really affecting our business. But what to do? We keep pushing and putting God.
Have you heard of the COVID-19 loan from CBN?
No. This is my first time hearing it.
Okay, but they are giving out loan to small businesses. If you were to get the loan, what would you do with it?
I will use it and stock my shop, at least to make the shop to be more than this, because right now I have 2 staff I'm paying and also the shop, so I need money to put in the business.
Yeah. So you use the money to make the business even better than
better than this, yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Surviving COVID-19 series is brought to you in partnership with the Central Bank of Nigeria.
Oil prices dipped Tuesday, paring some gains from the previous session as the market feared that more aggressive interest rate hikes from central banks may lead to a global economic slowdown and soften fuel demand. Brent crude futures dropped 81 cents or 0.7% to $104.26 a barrel after climbing 4.1% on Monday, the biggest increase in more than a month. The October contract expires on Wednesday, and the more active November contract was at $102.33, down 0.6%. Let's now see prices of other commodities in the global commodity markets. Well, trading on the Nigerian equities market started the week on a negative note this Monday to see the NGX All-Share Index depreciate by 0.01% and settle at 49,676.75 points. Market capitalization dropped to 26.7 trillion naira. Investors traded 232.9 million shares in 4,425 deals valued at 2.18 billion naira. The financial services industry dominated the activity chart with Jais Bank, Access Holding PLC, and FBN Holdings PLC. Stocks and bond markets attempted to steady on Tuesday as investors turned their focus to inflation data and this week's U.S. labor market report. Nekauko has a summary of global market activities.
Stocks in the Asia-Pacific were mixed on Tuesday after sharp falls to start the week following Jerome Powell's hawkish speech at Jackson Hole. Japan's Nikkei 225 rose 1.14%. Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index declined 0.52%, while the Shanghai Composite declined 0.43%. U.S. stock futures ticked higher early Tuesday morning as Wall Street sought stability after another down day for stocks. Futures for the S&P 500 inched upward by 0.47%. Nasdaq 100 futures also added 0.32%, and the Dow Jones Industrial Average gained 0.25%. European markets moved higher on Tuesday after a negative start to the week. The DAX rose 0.78%, London's FTSE added 0.46%, and the French CAC climbed 0.79%. Early figures from African markets are pointing to a slightly positive start this morning, with South Africa's JSE Africa Top 40, Morocco's Free Float Index, and Namibia's Overall Index all marginally positive.
And before we go, how is the Naira exchanging for other currencies? And this is where we end this episode of the program. Remember, you can catch up on this episode and every other previous one on YouTube on the NTA's channel. You can communicate also with us via our various social media platforms. The program Business Express returns Wednesday at 3 p.m. My name is Leah Kating Babatunde saying God bless Nigeria and have a wonderful day ahead.